We'll give you a second. Oh, mic's on. I forgot you told me that. We're going to call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, February 20th, 2023. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And a roll call, Lisa.
Bill Leclerc. Darla Leclerc.
Here.
Tim Petrie.
Here.
Jason Ring.
Here.
Bonnie Shimalunas.
Here.
Scott Steckmesser.
Here.
Adam Wachowski.
Here.
Jeff Dulke.
Here.
Tracy Coach. All in favor.
All right, sounds good. We can skip over number 4. Everyone is here. We do not have a public hearing, so we will cross off number 5 as well. Going to number 6, input from the public. Anyone wishing to address the council on anything that's on this agenda or something you'd like to see on a future agenda, please step up to the podium, my right, your left, state your name and address for the record. Input from the public. All right, no input from the public. We will go on to number 6, which is council communications. Any letters or other communications from citizens that any council members would like to share with the rest of council? Tracy.
Oh, I got several calls complaining about snow and coordination of removing your cars from the street and plowing. But I figured everybody did.
Anybody else? Jeff.
I got a whole host of calls on not this last snowstorm, the snowstorm before. People were wondering, we got an inch and a half of snow and they pushed all the snow onto the sides and made huge snowballs when they knew we were going to have 4 days of 40-degree plus weather. And I told everybody, I said, no, wait for the next storm and call back if everything's fine. And I never even talked to Public Works about it. I just wanted to see how they were going to handle it. And probably 90% of people called me back and said this last snow was spot on. They were all happy with it. So whatever they did to adjust, they did a good job.
Trying to be responsive. And of course, every storm is different and everybody's got an opinion. So be assured, going back to Tracy's comment and yours as well, Jeff, I expect tomorrow we'll be getting notice out given the, Snowzilla forecast that we're seeing that the parking ban will be enforced starting Tuesday night and probably for a few days. But we've had, I hope you appreciate and the public does, we've just had a lot of those darned if you do, darned if you don't storms. And, sometimes an inch and a half or 2 inches gets more complicated, at least as far as doing it right as a foot. We'll see how it goes with a foot, given the forecast.
I would say I did hear from some people that were very happy that we were out there right away saying, hey, the parking ban, you can park on the street. There is no ban. I heard from 1 or 2 people that thought we should have had a ban, but the majority of them were appreciative of the fact they could keep their cars on the street. So you're not going to please everyone.
And happily, most people, if they have the opportunity to get their car off the street, maybe it's more a convenience than a must to park on the street. We're pretty good. What I saw, what I heard from Public Works, there were a few cars plowed around, but it wasn't nearly what it might have been.
Anything else, Jeff?
Yeah, I got a couple of messages then from people about the gardens in the front yards. In support of them, but not in support of having to have them raised. That they should just be able to just have a small garden.
Yep.
They understood the height restrictions, but not the fact that we were going to have them raised beds.
Okay. That it?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we will move on to number 8, council reports from boards, commissions, or committees. Anyone have anything to report on?
Main Street.
Okay.
With Main Street, things are going good with our arts programs. Let me just bring this up. I wanted to mention that There's some local scholarships available. Jason just put that out in a email this morning. You can contact Jason over at the Main Street office on Washington. But basically, it's Fox Communities Credit Union is offering one. Two Rivers Municipal Utilities Scholarship. I don't know if we've been talking about that or not, but people should know about that. And then as far as Art Street, we've given out 21 canvases, but we still need 8 more artists. And you've got until March the 15th, I believe, to drop off your finished product. So we would really love to see all fresh art for this year. So you can always talk to Jason about that as well. And we do have some pretty major sponsors for the banners. We are looking to sponsor more. So it'd be nice if you want to get your business's name on the banner as well. What's coming up March 10 is Great Trivia Contest. And Jason, what did I miss? That's about it.
That's about it. We have 12 teams signed up for trivia. So we've got room for 4 or so more. So if you're thinking about getting a team together, let me know soon, because we will have to cut it off if we get a maximum number of teams. And it's a super fun night. You don't have to be smart to play. Your friends don't have to be smart to play. You can show up and have a great time. So.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at you because I'm replying to your question.
Okay. Not smart, and he looks right at me. Okay. All right. So that's what's going on with Main Street. With EAB, we are right on track with what we want to do. Tracy and I went to a seminar early last week.
It was a Friday.
Okay. And it had to do with CAFOs and what the farmers what they need to do and address to be in line with like clean water and stormwater runoff. And it's for CAFOs, and that is a concentrated area feeding operation. It's the big farms, the big cattle farms. So that was really eye-opening. And actually right now, they're going to be having a manure 101 class. I don't know about you, Tracy, but I plan on going. So it'll deal more with spills and things that could go into our waterways, not through fault of their own. But so anyway, we did that. And we do have another speaker coming up over at the library on, when is it, March 6th?
9th.
Thank you, March 9. And that one's going to be Nick Vandehey. He's going to be talking about stormwater ponds and what the DNR is going to require from us. And I would encourage everybody who has questions about stormwater ponds, why do we do it? Why do we spend money on them? What are the benefits? Come and listen to them, because there's definitely logic behind all of it. It just can be kind of costly logic, but it is very important. And I don't know, I think we're doing pretty good on those fronts. Oh, Tracy, I wanted you to just talk about the seminar that we went to.
Oh, well, briefly, like she said, it was for concentrated area farming operations, but they also addressed some of those that aren't necessarily concentrated, but have larger livestock and such, and what they can do to, how they can either treat or deal with livestock waste. And the impact for us in the city here is that we are the downstream endpoint for all of that coming off the farms. And part of what the DNR will be requiring with the TMDLs coming up is a certain amount of what kind of a sediment load we can have for runoff, and phosphorus. And your phosphorus comes from fertilizing, not just your lawns, but also the folks upstream at the farms. They also, part of the diet for the livestock, I understand, includes phosphorus. Our intention was to go and see what they are already required to do, and if there was some way that we could potentially down the pike maybe work with them to mitigate it even more, so that we don't have to put in very expensive stormwater ponds.
Okay, anything else? I heard good things about Sweet Street. Anything to report on that?
Oh, Jason, I didn't go. Don't tell anybody, but Jason, you want to talk about Sweet Street?
Oh, yeah. So we had 100 people participate. I think 99 was the number. They came out and got a bag from us and wandered to 13 different businesses within the Main Street district to collect treats. And they ran the gamut of Lakeshore Rock and Gem on one end to over to the Cobblestone, and as far to the other end is I think First Anderson Real Estate. And we had treats that ranged from bars to cupcakes, cookies, and even rock candy at the Rock and Gem shop, which makes total sense. But make sure you're eating the edible ones when you're snacking there, apparently, is the rule. So yeah, we had a really good time with that event. First time we saw a lot of families come out for that. And that was kind of our goal, was to draw families and make it more of a family-friendly event than what we do with our wine and beer walks. So pretty successful.
It sounded like that
So
from
we'll
people
look
that
to see that
attended.
grow
so.
next year. But it's neat. I have pictures of the street filled with people with their orange bag walking up the street. I think we need to do something bright so that we can recognize people participating every time. So
Good. Yes, Tracy.
And a comment on that, it works for getting them in the stores and spending money, because my sister came to town just to do that. And she told me what she spent in the stores, so it must work.
and I got to meet Tracy's sister. It was great. She's a hoot.
Yeah, nothing like me.
Anyone else? Anything to report? All right, Greg, city manager's report.
Yes, we have a number of invited guests tonight. First, I'd like to ask Lisa Keene, our deputy clerk, and Amanda Barenbrook, our new city clerk and human resources director, to come up to the podium here. This is the first night that Amanda is joining us for a council meeting, and she'll be sworn in by Lisa shortly. Just to recap, Amanda was recently appointed to replace Jamie Jackson, who performed very capably in the position. She comes to us from the city of Manitowoc, where she served for the past 2 years as deputy city clerk. And prior to that, she worked for several years as an administrative support specialist in the clerk's office. She's got an associate degree in environmental engineering technology, but you can't recruit her for the environmental advisory board. She's going to be too busy as clerk. And perhaps even more relevant to her position, recently earned her bachelor's degree in business administration from Lakeland College with a concentration in human resources management. So we welcome her aboard, and she arrived just in time to help with the primary election, which everything is set up for starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So with that, Lisa, if you would do the duties of swearing in Amanda.
I, Amanda Barenbrook,
Who have been appointed
have been appointed
to the office of city clerk
to the office of city clerk
in and for the city of Two Rivers
in and for the city of Two Rivers
in said county,
in said county,
but not yet entered
but not yet entered
upon the duties thereof,
upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
or that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Well,
And actually, if you want to proceed and shake hands with each of the council members, we'll formally welcome you. Watch out for cords, though. We don't want you to get injured. Keep on the job.
Talk environmental later.
Thank you.
Wonderful addition. So next up, Amanda will stay right there, because Ben Minert, our police chief, will come forward for the swearing in and badge pinning for our new assistant police chief, Melissa Wiesner. Following Melissa's swearing in, there are also 3 departmental life-saving awards that are to be presented this evening. Chief.
I just wanted to give a quick introduction. First off, though, congratulations, Amanda. So Melissa Wiesner started her law enforcement career as a CSO in Appleton PD. She earned her associate's degree in police science from Fox Valley Tech in 2001. Melissa was hired here in Two Rivers and has continued her entire career here for 21 years. She began in 2002. Since then, Melissa went on to earn her bachelor's degree in psychology from Silver Lake College and her master's degree in community counseling from Lakeland College. She has served our department as an SRO, a school resource officer, investigator, and detective lieutenant. Last year, she completed a 3-week course in leadership in police organizations and was then accepted to the very prestigious 10-week FBI National Academy, where she graduated with the 283rd class. I'm happy to announce Melissa will now promote officially. It was the 10th, but today will be her official pinning to assistant chief. And I will add, she will be the first female assistant chief and the highest ranking female officer in Two Rivers. So congratulations.
I, Melissa Wiesner, the undersigned who have been appointed
to the office of Assistant Chief of Police
to the office of Assistant Chief of Police
in and for the city of Two Rivers,
in and for the city of Two Rivers
in said county,
in said county,
but have not yet entered
but yet not have entered
upon the duties thereof,
upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the United States of Wisconsin,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of said office
of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God. Thanks.
I will say I told her that's where I get hung up all the time as well. So I set her up for that.
And then I couldn't stop laughing. Thank you.
And Jason, her husband, is going to come up and pin her.
Practice, did he? You just noticed he's there.
Yeah, well, I didn't notice it until just now. As the city manager stated, I have a couple of awards to give out to our officers as well. The first 2 awards go to Officer Brogan Tremmel and Lieutenant Jake Glazer. If you guys could come up, please. I always joke with the fire department that, you know, life-saving is something that they do daily. But when we get the opportunity, it's something that, you know, we really like to showcase. And it's something that you can't be awarded anymore, just personal level. So this is in recognition of their life-saving efforts on April 30th, 2022, when their quick thinking in response to a subject in custody having a medical emergency led to the saving of that person's life. Again, Brogan Tremmel and Jake Glazer. Then the next one is for Zayla Miller. Zayla, this is in recognition of her life-saving efforts on July 20th, 2022, when her compassion and persistence gained the trust of an uncooperative citizen and convinced him to get medical help when others could not. She then coordinated his transport to the hospital. Weeks later, ironically, that same citizen came in to talk to me and provided information that her intervention resulted in saving the life of that citizen of the city of Two Rivers. So if it wasn't for her, he would have surely perished. Here you go, Zero. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next up, we have a number of representatives of Two Rivers Rotary tonight. As we mentioned at the last council meeting, this is a pretty significant anniversary, 100 years of service to the community from Two Rivers Rotary. So I'd ask Betty Bittner and other representatives of Rotary. We only flagged Betty on the agenda, but I know we have a number of Rotarians here tonight. Feel free to come up to the dais. And Mr. President, you do have in your packets a proclamation. Would request a motion to read and adopt that.
Okay, we are looking for a motion to read and adopt the Rotary Club of Two Rivers Proclamation, which is in our packet. Do I have a motion on that? Thank you, Bill. Second by Scott. Any council discussion? See,
Could I possibly be asked to read the proclamation?
you could.
So I am the Manitowoc Rotary Club president, and I'd be honored to do that if I would be allowed.
Sure, we can have you read that. Just give us a moment to vote.
Sounds good.
That is any council discussion other than that. See none, it is a proclamation. It is a roll call vote. Lisa.
Darla Leclerc. Aye. Tim Petrie. Jason Ring.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimalunas. Aye. Scott Steckmesser.
Aye.
Adam Mahowski. Jeff Dalkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc. All in favor.
And without any further ado, the mic is yours, Jason.
Whereas Rotary International, founded in February of 1905 in Chicago, Illinois, is the world's first and one of the largest nonprofit service organizations. And whereas Rotary Club of Two Rivers was founded in February of 1923, being the first service club in the community. There were 31 charter members, including elected president George Hamilton and Fred Schroeder, elected treasurer. Two Rivers was home of two Rotary District governors, Howell Evans in the 1930s and Earl Cromer in the 1960s. And whereas the Rotary motto, service above self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, encourage high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas Rotary Club of Two Rivers funds projects and sponsors volunteers internationally, including Polio Plus to rid the world of polio virus, practical solar cooking facilities to impoverished nations of the world, and support of Haitian residents providing clean drinking water. And locally, Central Park West 365 Ice Rink, Two Rivers High School Peace Pole, Ivy Trails Tunnel at Vanderbroek Arboretum, Rotary Pavilion at Neshota Beach, Wayside Lookout on Mariners Trail, Lester Library helping to create a youth play area, Neshota Water Trail providing docks and signage to kayakers, bus shelter on Forest Avenue, improvements of Neshota Park restrooms and beach house, worked with other service clubs in creating Camp Roquillo in the 1920s and Mariners Trail most recently. Now, therefore, the City of Two Rivers do hereby proclaim February 20th, 2023 as Rotary Day and encourage all citizens to join in recognizing our Rotary Club of Two Rivers and Rotary International for its more than 100 years of service. Dated this 20th day of February, 2023.
Did you and folks have any comments to offer this evening? Mr. President?
Thank you. I'm Michael Dittmer. I'm the president of the Two Rivers Rotary Club. And we're just so proud of what this organization has done over the last 100 years. You mentioned just probably 1%, if that, of the sort of things we've done over the years. And so just stay tuned. We're going to be putting on a community day, hopefully in Central Park 365 later this summer, early fall, hopefully. And doing all kinds of other events. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that on April 1st, we have a fundraiser at Sepia Chapel. We've already given somewhere around $60,000 to the 365. We're going to be raising more money for Central Park 365, perhaps to buy skates and other things like that. So just proud to be the president while we're celebrating 100 years. And Dennis Swetlek, who many of you know, is our president-elect.
Thank you, Rotary.
Great, congratulations, and thank you for all you guys do.
While Mrs. Bittner is in proximity to the microphone, she also, in her capacity with Bank First here in Two Rivers, presented the real paper check, which I promptly gave to our finance director, and he deposited it last week, so it didn't get lost on my desk. But also, we do have the ceremonial check this evening representing Bank First's $50,000 donation, that being the naming gift for the pavilion patio at the park. So, Mr. President, if you'll come forward. Council members that have participated on the planning and design committees too, I think Tracy, Darla, Scott, you all have at one time or other been involved with the project, but feel free to join up here.
Go, Scott.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Sure. You want to?
Break Kathy's.
As manager of Bank First in Two Rivers, I'm very proud to present this to the city of Two Rivers for the park, and we're very excited about what vibration this will give to the city and continue to develop the economic what's going on in the city to bring it forward. So $50,000 to the pavilion.
Thank you.
Certainly Bank First record in the community and involvement in business financing for economic development, the beautiful new branch that just a few years ago gets constructed and greets people coming into downtown, very much an integral part of the community. And that support for community investments like Central Park West, very, very much appreciated.
So thank you, Betty. Thank you, Bank First, for all you've done for the park and all you do, quite frankly, for the whole community. They're very big community sponsors of a lot of different events. So thank you.
Okay, next up, I'm pleased to say that we have Jordan Masnicka, our representative from Robert W. Baird and Company. Jordan is here this evening to talk about and present, we'll be presenting right after his presentation, the parameters resolution for the city's borrowing for 2023 capital projects. The budget includes provision for general obligation borrowing in support of 2023 capital projects of $1,815,000. We have, through discussion, as we've looked at this issue, both the finance director and I have recommended, and the Baird presentation tonight represents reducing that new borrowing by $650,000 to make use of some 10-year notes that were issued by the city in 2019 for the Hamilton property purchase. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to proceed when the time is right with the Hamilton property purchase, but these 10-year notes can be redeployed through budget amendment to other capital projects, and that seemed prudent at this time, given the amount of time that money's been held and given the current interest rate environment. So the presentation you hear tonight will reflect one new borrowing of $1,165,000. Council approves that parameters resolution tonight. We'll hear back probably at the next meeting from Baird as to the placement of, or what happened when the issue was placed. And I'll also at the next meeting be bringing back to you a budget amendment to reallocate the $650,000 within our capital funds. So, Jordan, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. So we do have a presentation here, and I did bring a printed copy for everybody. So you should have that in front of you. Let me know if you need one. But I wanted to start out with just a high-level overview of the interest rate market for municipal bonds. So this chart highlights what rates have done over the past year. I'm sure you've seen it in the news that interest rates have gone up over the last year and a half. You can see a lot of volatility in this chart, and that is felt in the the rate market for municipal bonds. The pinkish purplish line is the rate for 10-year notes. So that's what we're looking to issue for the city, is a 10-year issuance. I will say that while you see a lot of volatility in this chart, historically speaking, if you go back 30 years or longer, we're still in a good interest rate environment. Even though rates have gone up, they're more in a more normal range for debt issuance. So we're still in an advantageous environment. On the right-hand side of this page, we wanted to include what the rates are for state trust fund loans. I know that the city has leveraged state trust fund loans previously, but in this interest rate environment, bank rates and the rates for state trust fund loans have gone up pretty dramatically. So you'll see they're currently at rates of 5.25%, which is a decent amount higher than municipal bond rates. So we're proceeding with a market issuance for municipal bonds. I will say that we've also taken advantage of refinancing previous state trust fund loans. So you probably remember over the past few years, we've worked with the city to refinance those state trust fund loans and achieve savings for the city. So going on to the next page, we have a timeline. So this initial plan was discussed with the Personnel and Finance Committee on February 8th. Tonight, we're obviously discussing the plan. And then, as Greg said, we're going to act on the parameters resolution. And that resolution authorizes the city manager and finance director to approve the issuance of the notes given certain parameters. As long as we meet the parameters spelled out in this resolution, the issuance can be approved just by the city manager or finance director. So this gives us a lot more flexibility rather than waiting for a next council meeting and having to issue on the evening or the day of a council meeting. This allows us to get into the market as soon as we're ready. And you'll see on here, as soon as the council agrees to proceed tonight, we're going to keep working on the offering documents and look to issue as soon as we possibly can. So the city manager or finance director will approve it as soon as we get out into the market, and then we will close the transaction essentially as soon as we can. It just has to be after April 1st to give us that full 10 years of amortization out to 2033. So just some high-level overview of the transaction. As was mentioned, the issue amount will be $1.165 million to fund the projects included in the capital improvement plan. The issuance will be repaid over 10 years out to 2033, beginning in 2024. So the first payment will be April of next year. And right now we're looking to have a call date on it in 2030, meaning that it can be prepayable in 2030. So when we issue municipal bonds, investors like to have a certain amount of time before it can be repaid. So essentially 7 years from issuance is kind of the shortest that we can go. So that gives the city a little more flexibility in terms of when it can be repaid. So right now we're looking at an interest rate around 4%. In this parameters resolution, we have a rate of 4.75 in there, so that if the markets moved really fast and we can't meet that 4.75, it just means we would have to come back to the city, to the council before we can approve that issuance. So going on to the next page is the detailed financing plan. A lot of numbers on here, but it's pretty simplistic. But the left side is the repayment of your existing debt. This middle section is this proposed issuance for $1.165 million. and the payments that go along with that over 10 years. And then you'll see we have a column for your future issues. So obviously we want to keep the future issuance in mind as we're structuring this repayment as well. So we're assuming $2 million a year. And then the far right side is that combined debt service. So you'll see this current year, the city is repaying just under 2.5 million. And then we're stepping into a slightly higher payment, leveling off a little under $2.7 million a year. And then lastly, I want to touch on the debt capacity for the city. So I know the city has a mandate to keep 40% of capacity open. And this bar chart shows kind of where we sit now and then projected in the future, including that $2 million of annual issuance going forward. And you can see currently with this issuance, we have 53% remaining. And then going forward, you can see how it looks. So we're well within the parameters of that 40% remaining. So that's all I have. It's kind of a lot of information for this. Any questions?
Actually, with the growth we've seen in equalized value of the city over the last 3 years, to Jordan's last comment in this bar chart, we have had a longstanding policy set by council of wanting to stay at or below 60% of the statutory cap on general obligation debt, as noted on the table. That's 5% of equalized value. So 3% is effectively our policy limit. And that had been a challenge as we saw some declines in the city's equalized value after the 08-09 recession, then the double whammy here after Hamilton's departure. But with the rebounding, in property values, that gives us a whole lot more breathing room when it comes to those limits. And the idea of that extra 40% held in reserve, if you will, isn't just for catastrophic bad stuff that might happen, but it also it allows for borrowing when opportunities arise, when the council sees fit to borrow for economic development projects like some of our TIF supported activities. And on those, we may still go to the trust fund because a taxable issue in the market today, what would you say on that?
Yeah, it's higher than the 4% we're looking at here.
Yeah.
It probably closer to 5%, probably closer to the state trust fund loan.
Right about in that neighborhood. Yeah, thank you. So with that, if there are no objections, would ask that the council move to the corresponding agenda item for this, which is 11C, and take action on the resolution as presented with modification of the not to exceed dollar amount to $1,165,000. And that resolution would be a roll call vote.
Okay, so we're looking for a resolution to authorize the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed the $1.165 million in general obligation promissory notes. Looking for a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Bonnie. Council discussion.
1.165.
Yep.
1.8.
Well, the resolution as presented reflects the original budget intent. I was just suggesting if that was a motion to adopt this this resolution with that one change. I vetted that with Baird and Bond Council on Friday, and that's fine. Because that effectively is the limit now. We won't be borrowing more than 1.165 million.
Because we're taking money previously borrowed from the Hamilton property that we already have borrowed with high interest rates the way they are. This is a very smart move in my opinion, because we're paying high interest rates when we already have that money borrowed that we can't use right now.
We're continuing to watch the situation as it relates to that property, and certainly the city doesn't lack access to markets if we need to reborrow that portion. But for right now, this just seems to make sense.
Any other council discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Are we still on Lisa? Lisa? Okay, Lisa.
Scott Steckmesser.
Aye.
Adam Mahusky.
Aye.
Jeff Dalkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie.
Aye.
Jason Ring.
Aye.
Bonnie Shemalunas.
Aye.
All in favor.
Good, Jordan, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for being here. Okay, thank you. Next up, under my city's manager's report, our status and update reports. Again, congratulations to Two Rivers Rotary. This week's report features one of Jeff Dawson's great photos, both at the front end and the back end of the report, kind of the signature view of Two Rivers with the fish tug Peter Paul coming into port. Lots of ongoing personnel activity. We are back out advertising for the fire chief position. Recreation supervisor, that deadline has come and interviews are in process for that position. Director of Tourism application deadline is February 24. That's the full-time director positions on the same schedule. Recruitment underway for a 20 to 25 hour per week position of media and marketing coordinator. These will be city employee positions funded entirely through the room tax, which is under the jurisdiction of the Room Tax Commission. And the third element there, we are in the process under the guidance of the Room Tax Commission, creating a 501c6 Explore Two Rivers tourism organization, which will likewise, I expect, have a contract with the Room Tax Commission for carrying forward the city's tourism program. So those are two important positions where recruitment is underway. And also, due to the promotion of our Public Works utility person, Travis Christensen, to Public Works Street Superintendent, we are currently recruiting some strong internal candidates, but also externally for Public Works utility person. That's got a February 24 deadline. Bill Leclerc had asked at the last meeting about the status of any discussions with the Corps of Engineers and our federal representatives about harbor improvements. I did follow up again last Friday with an email to one of the planning staff at the Corps of Engineers Chicago District Office, their planning chief. She indicated should be getting in touch with me as of tonight. I still haven't heard. This is on the step of the Corps making a determination of federal interest in the harbor improvements we've been lobbying for quite a while, that being some modifications to the harbor entrance to reduce our pretty well documented storm surge and shoaling problems. So I'll continue to put this on not only in my report, but we'll continue to follow up until we know that there's some forward movement on that. Point Beach Nuclear Plant, they today hosted a tour by Miss America, a pretty amazing young lady from Wausau, who is actually a nuclear engineering major in her senior year at UW-Madison, Grace Stanke. And she, along with a group of guests, were able to tour the turbine room and the control room simulator out there. Was very cool. Councilmember Shimalunas was there for the tour. Councilmember Ring joined us right after the tour for the reception and program at the Energy Information Center. Elizabeth Runge, our community development director, and I were also there. Point Beach, certainly a huge economic factor in our area, still in that range of 500 to 600 employees, and they're 2 weeks out from the next refueling outage. So that will bring several hundred contractors into town. So good for the room tax proceeds, good for restaurants, bars, gas stations, the whole 9 yards. There are 2 refuelings this year, one in October as well. So it was good. Hadn't been out there for a while, certainly pre-COVID, and pretty amazing that Wisconsin is the home state for the current Miss America, who at age 20 is finishing up this semester her degree in nuclear engineering from our flagship campus, the UW. She did not wear the tiara during but she had it in the tiara traveling case, which was pretty cool. Pretty cool. We last week and this week, installation of the new emergency siren is happening over at Picnic Hill. Council members will recall that in 2022, the city agreed to accept a donation of the emergency sirens within the city limits that had been installed and maintained by Point Beach Nuclear. The nuclear plant has switched to a cell phone-based public emergency notification system. However, they did offer local units the opportunity to pick up these fairly new sirens and their ongoing maintenance. There was support here at council because of the idea of still having audible alarms in the community for tornado warnings, other weather events, or emergencies. So this fourth location is now being added to the three within the city because there was certainly a perception that I think the next closest one to the east side is at Washington Park near the old Washington High School site. So this gives you good audibility at the beach and on up the way toward Point Beach State Forest. That work that's still going on, Brian?
Yes, it is.
Still going on. City tree planting grant update. You know that earlier this year, the Parks and Rec Department was awarded a GNR Urban Forestry Grant to help with tree inventory, with staff training, and with some plantings. The Rec Department has now contracted with a firm called Blue Stream Forestry, a Wisconsin firm with good credentials, in doing tree inventories. And come April, they will be undertaking a community-wide inventory of all public trees in city parks and other properties, as well as along our city streets. And that should be a useful management tool going forward, as sadly we remove more trees than we're used to with emerald ash borer, and likewise are stepping up our planting efforts. Central Park West 365, not a whole lot more to report on the fundraising front. We're still at just under $800,000 mark. We have increased to an overall goal of $850,000 to reflect final budget. About 2 weeks ago, the application for Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Vibrant Spaces Grant was submitted. That's potentially $50,000 in funding assistance. On the construction front, council authorized or made a decision at a work session a few weeks ago to not spend the sort of money that would be involved in moving and reutilizing the roof structure of the old stage. Subsequent to that, we did get a change order estimate or quote from Vinton Construction for $14,000 to remove and dispose of the old stage, which you'll recall is a heck of a lot cheaper than we could do it using our staff and our much smaller equipment. Vinton is supposed to mobilize the week of February 27th for demolition of the old structure. And we expect Koenig Construction, their subcontractor for the Park Pavilion building, to be on site very shortly thereafter. There are now 2 candidate forums scheduled for city council candidates. I don't know that all candidates have heard about both of them because we just heard at City Hall last week, I think on Friday, about the Two Rivers Business Association board's commitment to do a candidate forum. But if you're a candidate, you should be getting contacted shortly by TRBA if they haven't already. Those 2 forums are by March 9th, 7 p.m. here in the chambers at City Hall. Certainly those events accommodate a live audience. They'll likewise be live streamed and the city's Facebook page. I'm not going to bank on having Charter Cable back up by that time. And then similarly, the Two Rivers Business Association Forum is scheduled for the following week, Tuesday, March 14, also at 7 p.m. here in Chambers. That will also be live streamed on Facebook and the city website, and both of them will be available for later viewing as well. So thanks to League of Women Voters and TRBA for helping with that, helping the community learn more about the candidates. And again, I would just note that there are 6 candidates on the ballot for that April 4th spring election. They are listed in the order shown here: Dean LaRose, Ron Abney, Darla LeClaire, Bonnie Shimalunas, Shannon Derby, and Adam Wahusky. Upcoming events, I think the first couple I mentioned here are probably sold out. Adam, Price is Right is this Friday and pretty much there.
Yeah, there's maybe 10 tickets left.
Okay.
So we are right there at sold out.
Okay, great. So annual event benefiting Two Rivers Youth Sports, Inc. Over in the Rochelo Gym at the Community House. So we wish them much success with that event. And also, let's see, that was on Saturday. Also on Saturday night over at Sepia Chapel, also a sellout, I believe. At this point, the Tropical Blast fundraiser, major fundraiser for Woodland Dunes Nature Center. So a lot of good things going on in the community in support of doing more good things in the community. The 2 rec departments in Manitowoc and Two Rivers are organizing a St. Patrick's Day Leprechaun Hunt. So the rules will become available at 8 a.m. on March 15. The event will go on for a week. and you can search for leprechauns hidden in Two Rivers and Manitowoc parks. If you find them all in either city or in both, you can submit a photo to earn a chance for prizes that will be drawn. So rules and clues will be available at Parks and Rec starting 8 a.m. March 15. Nice joint project with Manitowoc Parks and Rec. Darla mentioned this earlier. Now, you can't be both at this and the League of Women Voters Candidates Night, but maybe we could also on this one have somebody videotape it, record it at the library. But again, the Environmental Advisory Board series, this one on stormwater runoff and ponds with Nick Van de Heij from McMahon, who's a pretty familiar face in these parts, advising the city on its stormwater programs. The city continues on Facebook to do these local spotlights on business. The most recent one this past week, Klein Hardware, and a lot of very positive comments. People that really appreciate, again, having a local hardware store. We just remind folks that the spring primary election for state Supreme Court is tomorrow. Polling places open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Make sure you bring along that photo ID. This on the ballot is solely the primary election for state Supreme Court justice. You get to vote for one, and the intent of the primary is to narrow the field down to 2 candidates who will face off in April for the state Supreme Court. Also, 2 weeks ago, the council approved a new tree planting grant program, a joint effort of the city, our utilities, and WPPI Energy. This is to offer grants to reimburse private property owners with tree planting on their properties, provided they meet certain parameters. Reimbursing property owners for 2/3 of the cost of a tree, up to $100 per tree. So you can spend up to $150, get up to $100 back, and that's up to $300 maximum per property owner. That information started going out in the most recent utility billing, just in the last, might have gone out last Friday in the mail. And as of tomorrow, not tonight, but as of tomorrow, if you go to tworivers.org, afternoon, say, you'll be able to find information on the program as well as an application form. The deal on this particular program is because there's a budget to stay within of $10,000. Folks will need to fill out an application, pre-qualify so they know that they're on the list. And once you get communication back saying that you pre-qualified, again, the city will furnish all of the requirements. Got to be a deciduous tree that at maturity would grow 25 feet or more, 4-inch caliper. I'm not remembering all the requirements. That's why we put them in writing. But we're hitting the ground running with that program. And that is my report for the night with this wonderful picture that still looks to me like donuts floating in the harbor. Just shows you where my mind goes. And this has been viewed worldwide. Jeff, can you share just a little? I'm sure you've had, if you would, if you don't mind, Council. Chief Minor had to leave because as a police officer, this photo for some reason just really attracts him.
So
that's a cheap joke. I'm sorry.
It was a couple of weeks ago. Nice day. I walked over to the pier and caught this. This is the ice rings. And I took a video and posted it on the library's website, or Facebook page rather. And it's appeared on television stations from Honolulu to Bangor, Maine.
Wow.
We received requests from Budapest, Hungary, Sweden, and Slovakia to have this video posted on their television stations. It's been pretty amazing. In the first week, we had over 50,000 views. So it's kind of interesting how social media can work in a positive way. This is a good example. So
Yeah, great shot, great picture.
Thank you, Jeff. And the video is almost makes you a little queasy. I think Jeff had to hold on tight to the railing down at the harbor. So once again, our amazing Leicester Public Library getting good PR for the city. So that, Mr. Council President and Council, is my report for tonight.
All right, thank you very much. On to number 10, which is the consent agenda. Under A, presentation of minutes, we have a city council meeting of February 6th, 2023. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the minutes. Under B, minutes of meetings, there are 7. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. Under C, recommendation from Plan Commission meeting of February 13th, 2023. We have a conditional use permit for boat rentals at 1509 Monroe Street in the Waterfront Business District as requested by Bayton Lakeshore Properties LLC. The recommended action is a motion to set public hearing on March 6th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And the other is amendment to zoning ordinance section 10-1-15G 4B6 for pilot program for front yard gardens. The recommended action is a motion to set public hearing on March 6, 2023 at 6 p.m. Under D, department reports for January 2023, there are 11. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. Under E, applications and petitions, we have 2. There's an application for a new combination Class B beer, Class B liquor license application for the period of February 20th, 2023 to January 30th, 2023 for TR 17th Street Investments LLC at 1019 17th Street. Annie B. Beaton, agent, DBA Fresh Coast. And we also have an application for a temporary Class B retailer's license application for the period of February 25th, 2023 from 5 p.m. till 11:30 p.m. for Two Rivers Youth Sports for Price is Right game show event at 1710 West Park Street. The recommended action is a motion to approve the applications and authorize issuance of the licenses. And finally, under F, summary of verified bills for the month of January 2023. Totaling $5,045,504.15. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. The overall recommendation for the consent agenda is a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. Looking for a motion on the consent agenda. Thank you, Tracy. Second by Bill. All right, any council discussion?
I would like to, if you don't mind, ask a question about, I was reading in the minutes about utility and public works. Now, I don't know if I misunderstood this, that they said they were looking into the possibility of utilizing ARPA funds. And I thought everybody understood that they were for replacing lead laterals. I mean, they're only for that.
That is what we have been using them for so far. I'm sorry, I didn't look closely at those minutes. They can actually be used for municipal investment in water systems, wastewater, and telecom or broadband. But,
well, I mean, I just thought it was strange when they said looking into the possibility, because I thought it was a set thing. I mean, in other words, we have the money if we want to use it.
Right.
Yeah. It just was such a strange statement, so I didn't know why it came up that way.
And honestly, one of the challenges we've discussed over the next 3 years, one of the challenges is going to be to spend that money fast enough, because it's going to outpace our street reconstruction work. And the EPA and DNR are really pushing to get all the lead service laterals out. That's going to mean poking a lot of holes in a lot of streets and patching them solely for the purpose of getting the lead out. But yeah, I think that's what that discussion.
The other thing I wanted to say, because I know it's hard to explain our co-op in the utility thing, but I hope you don't mind. I'd like to read section B from Mr. Delleman when he informed the committee that about lead times. In other words, he stated that transformer lead times can range from 52 to 198 weeks, depending on the style and so on of the transformer. Utility wire and cables also have lead times from 20 to 76 weeks. He's thankful that we're part of a co-op and have good relations with other utilities that can potentially supply one another in the event of an emergency. And we did have a water main break underneath the river, which was broken January 29th, fixed February 4th, and nobody went without water service. And the same thing happened when a transformer broke down. It didn't break down, but they found something wrong with it, and nobody went without power. I hope nobody minds that I bring this up because I always think our departments do a pretty good job. That's it.
Thank you, Bonnie. Anybody else? I'll just abstain from this vote, seeing I have a recommended Class B license up for vote here. So just an FYI. Yes.
If I might, I was just going to
Sure.
mention on the front yard garden thing too, the zoning ordinance amendment, the hearing will be held on in 2 weeks if you approve that item, is solely to create the opportunity to, if you will, suspend the rules for a pilot front yard garden program for 1 year. The details of that pilot program also are addressed as a recommendation from the Environmental Advisory Board, but that'll be presented separately for council action if and when the zoning code amendment that allows for this pilot program is approved. So in other words, the gory details are yet to come as far as putting them in front of the council.
Thank you. Anybody else? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. On to 11, which is council formal items. Under A, we have amendments to golf cart ordinance, section 8-9-5, registration, and 8-9-6, operation. Recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. It looks like Chief Meinert has made his way to the podium, and I believe he's got some background.
Yes, I believe it was 2 meetings ago. We brought to council, along with your request, but we noticed a error within our ordinance. It stated basically 35 miles or less are the roadways that golf carts could be operated on. However, statute conflicted with that, meaning that it had to be 25 miles per hour. And everybody was in agreement with that. So I looked to make that change proposed. Those were the only proposals the city had at the time. Your council staff directed for other amendments. One of those being seatbelts intended for golf carts to be installed and used by child passengers under 8 years old, 80 pounds. That similar language that you have in statute regarding safety child seats. In addition, identification was an issue that was brought up. So we looked at doing identification on the golf cart similar to that of the boats by statute with the DNR. So again, I used that same verbiage from statute as far as it relates to boat identification. And then the final thing that was brought up was there are golf carts that do operate at night and have a headlight to the front or rear. And the suggestion was brought up to have 2 headlights to the front and 2 taillights to the rear. So that has also been included within our said ordinance.
And again, that last one, 2 headlights and taillights are only for operation at night. So you don't need those at all if you operate during the day.
Correct. And the statute already stated that.
Okay. Perfect.
So the amendment you've got in front of you is responsive to the council's direction from the earlier discussion of this. Just to reiterate, the only recommended change coming from the police department is the one for conformity with the state statute.
Okay, looking for a motion on this.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second? Thank you, Scott. Council discussion. Bonnie.
The seatbelts, are those required or are they just required if you put children on?
So after I had conversation even with you specifically, Bonnie, I know you had that question a while back. I spoke with State Patrol. They are not required for golf carts currently.
No, I meant in this ordinance, it looked like the proposed ordinance says that if you have children on the golf cart under 8 or 80 pounds, they have to be buckled in. So what I'm asking is, does that mean that Two Rivers is requiring seatbelts on all golf carts or only if you're going to put children on?
It states in the ordinance, as is listed here, only if you're transporting children that are under those options. So you wouldn't have to have seatbelts if you're never doing so.
Okay.
And I think Councilmember Petrie had brought up and some others about, who's going to come up with the ideal restraint. That's why it's definitely intended to be an adjustable seatbelt, manufactured and installed for golf carts. That's how I worded it and left it at that.
Any other discussion? Jeff?
Do we have any fee adjustment in that?
That was not council's direction at that meeting.
No, we had talked about it, but I couldn't remember if it was in the
It
direction.
was brought up, but there was no support.
I think, Adam, I think you had mentioned all fees or something had to be looked at in the future or something. And,
Right. Yep.
Chief had mentioned, I think at the time that it lined up with a lot of the other fees that we currently do anyway, so. That's all I
That is correct, I believe. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will go to a roll call vote. Lisa?
Jason Ring, Bonnie Shimalunis,
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser,
Aye.
Adam Mahusky,
Aye.
Jeff Dolke.
Aye.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc. Aye. Tim Petrie.
Aye.
All in.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you, Chief Meinhardt, for all your work in putting that together for us. On to B, which is a partial release of utility easement vacated 25th Street, West Wiver Street to West Twin River. The recommended action is a motion to authorize the city manager and city clerk to execute the release on behalf of the city. Greg?
This pertains to a section of street right-of-way from West River to the West Twin River that was vacated by the city, I'm sorry, I've got it here somewhere, quite some time ago, back in, I think, the 1960s. However, 1969, the city vacated that undeveloped section of street right-of-way between West River Street and the river. However, the city retained a utility easement covering the entirety of the vacated portion of right-of-way. Basically said, we've got a right, property owner A, property owner B, you each get 30 feet of the vacated right-of-way effectively, but the city retains rights to use the entirety of the right-of-way for utilities. And that went along for quite a long time. However, there is, I think, a fairly new owner at 2422 East River Street, who wants to build a new garage there. And it's his property. He pays taxes on it, but it was acquired through vacation subject to these conditions. Our city engineering staff took a look at it, looked at the survey that was provided by the property owner, which is accompanying the resolution, accompanying the materials in your packets, determined that A, it doesn't affect any current city utilities. We don't anticipate would affect any planned city utilities. And Matt Heckenleibel, our city engineer, who'd be happy to come up and answer any questions you might have, also reached out last week to the various private utilities, gas company, the gas company, the phone company, cable, and each confirmed that they do not have any facilities in this right-of-way, so former right-of-way. So all this is doing is releasing that portion that's required for pretty much for the footprint of the garage. You see it cross-hatched in the survey. So with that, we would recommend council authorization for the city manager and city clerk to execute the release as provided.
Okay, looking for a motion on that. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Bill. Any council discussion? See none, this will be an all in favor. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, thank you very much. We already conquered 6, so we're going to move right on to D. That is the approval of contract for reconstruction of Lincoln Street, 17th Street to 22nd Street, 2023 capital budget project. The recommended action is a motion to approve the low bid from Mammoth Construction of Two Rivers in the total amount of $1,630,643.59 as recommended by the city engineer. Greg.
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. This is our most significant street reconstruction project this year. Lincoln Street from 17th to 22nd Street, including utility work. You can see that the low bid from Mammoth Construction came in mighty close to the engineer's cost estimate within $19,000. The engineer's cost estimate at $1.6 million. There were 6 bids received, and the bids were pretty tightly arrayed as well. So we've done a lot of work with Mammoth. They're a great local firm. So happy to pass along the city engineer's recommendation for the award of this contract to Mammoth Construction in the amount cited. Do note on here that we will be coming back with a separate contract for private-led service lateral replacements. That's plugged in here at an estimate right now of another $465,000, bringing this total project up to about 2.1 million. But that contract isn't quite ready yet. That's been mostly because we were waiting to learn more about the state program for funding private side lead laterals.
Okay, looking for a motion on this. Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second? Tracy, thank you very much. Any council discussion?
Do they have any dates for this?
Matt, if you want to step up to the mic.
I guess, just clarify what you're asking for as a date as far as start of construction. We're hoping to start construction late April. Hopefully complete in and around August instead of a late start and a even later conclusion.
There'll be a hearing coming up yet on special assessments.
Special assessments planned right now as March 20th.
In a neighborhood.
Qualified for the 30%.
The funding that the funding is going to be both, we have some clear water and some safe drinking. I believe it's an 80-20 split.
The 30% isn't as common anymore as what we were experiencing, unfortunately.
Jeff?
Are we gonna have a lot of community conversation with it?
We already
about a mess. So you weren't here for that, but there's an awful mess on 24th and 5th Street.
We already had a public informational meeting back in January. We'll have another public informational meeting just prior to the public hearing, whether or not we're going to do it the same night as council or on a separate night to be determined. But the planning is in the works right now.
Okay, thank you. Because
street width's pretty much unchanged on this one.
Pretty much everything is going back in the same location, just brightening and improving.
Because that was a big issue with the 24th Street project. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll abstain.
Okay, very good, thank you. All right, this is a roll call vote. Lisa?
Adam Mahusky,
Aye.
Jeff Dalkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach, Bill Leclerc, Darla Leclerc, Anisha Malunas,
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser.
Aye.
All right, thank you, guys. On to E, action declining proposed STP urban funding agreement for reconstruction of Emmett Street based on likelihood that actual design and construction costs will substantially exceed estimates on which the city's funding application was based. Federal funding capped at 80% of budget as presented in funding application. Recommended action, motion to decline the proposed funding as recommended by the city engineer. Greg?
It about kills me to come with anything like this, but you can see, our engineering department is quite capable when we bid projects out as local projects of coming in with estimates that are pretty darn close to what we see in the market. And that isn't just this year, but past years. The estimates, though, that were used for the WISTOT local program, which is, again, the so-called federal infrastructure bill dollars that are being provided to locals, but with a bid process and contracts administered through DOT, those tend to be a lot more expensive than locally administered programs. So you note here, the funding agreement would be based on our application. 80% for the federal funding would be 80% of what we applied for. There's a hard cap there in the state local agreement. There's not provision. We said, gee, can we amend our application? Do you have some extra money? No. So given that absolute cap and given the estimate for construction as the state has experienced bids being substantially higher, given the engineering cost estimate, the city had requested $34,000 for engineering based on our experience with local projects. And it's anticipated the engineering, just for example, wouldn't be at that $34,000 level, but for a project this size, probably 60 to 112,000. So all things considered, I think Matt has discussed this with the Public Works Committee. We kind of saw this coming, and DOT is looking for an answer. Our staff recommendation is respectfully, we decline this offered assistance.
Okay, looking for a motion, once again, that is to decline this. Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second? Thank you, Bonnie. Any council discussion? See none, we will do this as a roll call vote because it was in the budget kind of for borrowing. Lisa?
Jeff Dolke.
Aye.
Tracy Coach. Bill Leclerc. Darla Leclerc. Tim Petrie. Jason's gone. Bonnie Shimalunas.
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser.
Aye.
Adam Wahalski. All in favor.
All right, last but not least, we're on to F, resolution authorizing purchase agreement with the Two Rivers Public Schools for a conveyance of the city-owned property located adjacent to L.B. Clark Middle School. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt that resolution. I'll let Greg walk us into this.
Well, as council knows and the community does by way of background, the school district went to the voters of the Two Rivers School District last November with a capital program, a bond issue proposal for major renovations of various facilities, most notably L.B. Clark Middle School, and some physical expansion at the L.B. Clark campus, notably a new gymnasium and enlarged public parking to the west, and a new fifth grade wing to the north at L.B. Clark. That issue was strongly supported by the voters by about a 2-to-1 margin. The school district had flagged this matter with the city council prior to the referendum that the plans at L.B. Clark would require utilization of at least some portion of the property owned by the city there to the west of the school property and to the north of the school property. There was a follow-up meeting in January with city council and at a work session on January 23rd, along with representatives of the district, their design team, and city staff. The informal polling of the council at that work session indicated general support for conveying, consistent with staff's recommendation, the entirety of the approximately 9.5 acre parcel owned by the city to the school district, as noted in the resolution here, for $1. It's all pretty much the same tax-paying public, subject to the following general conditions. The district to construct at its cost a new Pony League, correction there, baseball field. Sorry, I learned something there. It's baseball, not softball. At the northwest corner of what is now the city parcel to replace an existing field at the northeast corner of that parcel. Secondly, that all the routine turf maintenance on that baseball field and adjacent green space in that area to the north of the expanded L.B. Clark facilities would be performed by the district. However, the city would retain an exclusive ability to use and schedule the softball field and the adjacent green space, which I think we're all hoping groups like Junior Raiders, which is an independent group, not city or school district, will use. But the city would still retain scheduling capabilities outside of school hours for that area. Since that meeting on the 23rd of January, this proposed conveyance was referred through my office to the Plan Commission. They have a statutory responsibility to consider and report back to council on a proposed sale or disposition of city property. Plan Commission in its meeting last week discussed this matter, discussed the proposed conditions for the conveyance, and voted unanimously to recommend, as their minutes reflect, that the city proceed with this property sale. So the intent tonight is that the city council provide direction through this resolution, corrected to read Pony League baseball field, and staff would then proceed to draw up a more formal purchase agreement. There's some other details there, like that, you know, if we need a new certified survey map for redividing the property, maybe a little more specifics on what we reasonably, and the school district reasonably thinks maintenance is on that green space. But my intent would then, as shown in the resolution, would be to come back not later than the second meeting in March with an actual purchase agreement for council action.
Okay. We do have the district here. So if anyone from council has a question that they'd like to ask the district, feel free to do so. Again, that is only directed to the district, not to each other on council, as there's not a motion yet. So does anyone have any questions that they want answered prior to doing this? And we are looking for a motion to approve this. First by Scott, second by Bonnie. All right, council discussion. Seeing none, looks like a winner. Roll call vote, Lisa.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimalunas,
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser,
Aye.
Adam Wahusky,
Aye.
Jeff Dalke.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much for that. On to 12 for information only. Greg, you got that? Otherwise, I can cover it.
You want to take that one? Mr.
Sure.
President?
We have a city council work session meeting for Monday, February 27th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And we also have a city council regular meeting on Monday, March 6th, 2023. I assume there is a need for a closed session?
Yeah, actually, and thank you. I misplaced my last place of the agenda here. I will not be here, nor will our utility director next week, Monday, because of the American Public Power Legislative Rally. I don't have a whole lot for the agenda for work session. We did 2 in January, you may recall.
You're proposing to skip. I don't think anyone's
I'm
gonna be mad at
proposing,
you.
yeah, skip may be a little bit of a strong term, but yeah, forego. Let's say.
Forego. I don't think anyone here is
Is
gonna
there
be mad.
is there any objection to foregoing February?
Oh, I'm packing for a vacation. It'd be great.
So if there are no objections, we will not be doing a work session next week, Monday.
Nothing to talk about or nothing that urgent? We're good.
Yeah. I would request that council, yes, go into closed session as noted on the agenda. I know I've lied about this before. It really should be pretty short, and I expect no action on reconvening in open other than to adjourn for the night.
Okay, so the city council reserves the right to enter into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.851E when deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Tonight, we will discuss possible city assistance to the redevelopment project, not named. Looking for a motion to go into closed session. Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second? Tim, any council discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Lisa.
Bill Leclerc, Darla Leclerc, Tim Petrie, Jason Ring, Bonnie Shimalunas,
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser,
Aye.
Adam Wahusky, Jeff Dalke, and Tracy Coach.
Aye.
We'll take at least 2 minutes. 2.5.